mom is doing fine, but daughter and son are not doing fine. And guess what happens? Right. RTAs happen. So it's my idea is like, why can we not change it? If hospitals get dinged too for readmissions, why can we not collaboratively join together and say, you know what, our discharges are going to be all on Tuesday and Wednesday, and that's going to be the heaviest day, because that coincides with the best staffing for my skilled nursing facilities.
One of the things we started is we now have a weekend rounder program. So again, if RTAs are happening Thursday to Sunday, okay. Well, we just said one of the best ways to prevent RTAs is just getting in front of families and talking to them. Yeah. So now we staff our high volume buildings with providers that go out on Saturday and Sunday.
If families know that they can reach you, they just want to know that there is a physician who's aware of the patient, who has the patient's history, even if they haven't seen him yet. You know, if worse comes to worse, I can call the doctor if I'm not getting the right answer from the nurses.
What do you see out there? And I'd love to just get your broad opinion on how, the insurers are the employers of the physicians moving forward.
We're getting political.
All right, welcome to Our Purpose Podcast, the podcast where stories from skilled nursing and long-term care come to life. I'm your co-host, Kip Kruger, a voice shaped by industry experience and a belief that everyone's story has a purpose and it's worth telling. Another exciting episode coming at you today. We got Mr. James Dieter and Chris Light in the house. Hello, fellas.
What's going on? Let's go.
Morning.
You ready? I'm excited.
Always ready.
Always ready. We got an awesome episode for you today. We got doctors in the house, two really intelligent, smart doctors. Excited to introduce them to the podcast. So we welcome Dr. Punatar. Welcome to the Our Purpose Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
And Dr. Goodwin. How are you, sir?
Great. Appreciate being here.
Man, let's roll.
Yeah.
How you been?
Let's do it.
Good.
You look good.
Do I?
Yeah.
Tell my wife that.
Yeah, I will later. But I've known you all. I've known you both in the industry for quite some time. So first and foremost, thank you for sitting down and chatting with us. I'm excited to hear what you got going on. I'm excited to hear what changes you've made inside the industry and how you're impacting patient care for the skilled nursing services that you provide and the facilities that you attend. So Dr. Punatar, start us off. Give us a little background for the listeners. Who you are, what you're doing, and how you're impacting patient care.
Yeah, absolutely. So Grady and I have been internists, and we've kind of practiced in every realm known to man. So Grady, was medical director at Baylor, Dallas way back when, and kind of recruited me to join him. And we were both hospitalists in those days. And you should tell the story, but he had the foresight to basically see that there's a silver wave coming in skilled nursing home. So why don't you tell the story of getting hospitalists to go out into nursing homes and what it was like?
Yeah, it wasn't really foresight about any market trends. It was a group of hospitalists wanting more work, but fewer weekend shifts and night shifts. And so we, and this was 15 years ago or so. It was about the time that readmission penalties kind of came down the pike. So we had a small group at Baylor downtown. There were about 25 or 30 hospitalists. And so we all agreed, like, hey, the workflow seems the same. These are all patients that we're sending to skilled nursing. So why don't we just follow them out into the skilled nursing space? And so everyone agreed to do a week. We just went and knocked on the door of a local skilled nursing facility. Of course, they were thrilled to have us come in. Yeah. And so everyone did a week, and then we huddled up, and there were only 3 people left that wanted to keep doing it.
After 1 week.
Yeah. It's it is very similar to hospital medicine, but the nursing is different. The resources are different. It's in many ways it's harder. And so almost everyone kind of said, yeah, that was a neat experiment, but this isn't for us.
Yeah, super innovative approach, like early on where you didn't have medical directors going into skilled nursing facilities or doctors who followed the patient. What sort of benefits did you experience and did you see first by seeing the patient in the hospital and then following directly to the skilled nursing facility?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I had no idea what happened in skilled nursing. I think most hospitalists probably don't.
Yeah.
And so it was a real eye-opener. We would send these patients to skilled nursing, and at the time I was doing a lot of night shifts, and so I was readmitting a lot of people from skilled nursing, and just seeing a lot of things that I thought, well, gosh, that could have been done better, or why didn't they do this? And then I got in the space, and it was apparent. There's just the capabilities they're not hospitals. They're not even close to hospitals. And so it was just an interesting experience. I remember getting a call on a skilled nursing patient when I was still in the hospital, and it was a nurse needing clarification on a medicine, wanted me to send a prescription in, which I'd never had a call like that before. And I was like, well, can't you just have your pharmacy deliver it? They were like, yeah, our pharmacy is Walgreens out on the corner of,
Walk down the hallway.
yeah, Oak Lawn and Lemon. And so I was just like, oh my God, you don't have a pharmacy in house? And the guy was just silent. I mean, he just couldn't believe how stupid I was for asking a question like that. And so,
But that's kind of all hospitalists. Like when we started, we thought every facility outside of a hospital was the same. Every nursing home was the same as assisted living, as independent living, as LTAC. And
From a resource standpoint.
Yeah, and we'd be like, oh, can you get this lab stat? Call me in 10 minutes. And they're like, no, we'll call you in 12 hours.
Sure.
Like, that's stat.
Yeah.
So it was a learning curve for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you still in the hospital as well as hospitalists, or are you full-time?
Not now, not in many years, but we did both for a while.
I find that super interesting because as a previous administrator, I worked with many medical directors, and saw that there was a disconnect. There was a disconnect from the doctors in the hospital to the doctors in the skilled nursing facility, and often sometimes had the state called on us because we sent a patient out the hospital and that wasn't the way the patient came from the hospital. So the patient. The case manager or the nurse at the hospital level had called the state, and we're like, no, hold on, you don't understand. So I asked the question, and how do you get people to understand just the challenges that skilled nursing facilities have compared to hospitals?
Yeah, it's education.
Yeah.
It's education. Every time I get a new patient in skilled nursing, and most of our providers, I mean, we kind of have a set dialogue that we have with patients to level set.
Sure.
Set expectations.
What does that sound like?
Well, so I introduce myself. I always want to give them a cadence where I say, hey, you're not in the hospital. We're not going to see you every day, but in our model, most of the time, we're going to see you every other day. We're accessible 24/7. Every nurse here has our phone number. They can call me. They can call my nurse practitioner. We have resources here.
Yeah.
This isn't just about rehab. That's kind of how skilled nursing was seen 15 years ago. But the level of nursing has really improved. I mean, we have facilities now where you have patients, they have a trach, they got PICC lines or central catheters. We're doing wound vacs. We're doing IV antibiotics. We're doing all these things.
Blood infusions a couple months ago.
Yeah. So the capabilities have really gone up. But I think talking to patients and families, especially on that first visit, and then we give them a business card and we say, here's a 24/7 number you can call. You can talk to the provider. We'll be here. We'll be in front of you. We'll guide you through this process.
Dude, that's so cool. One thing that you said, you first said, you're not in the hospital.
Yeah.
Why do you lead with that?
Expectations.
Sure.
I mean, I can't tell you the number of people that come and they expect a doctor to welcome them as they wheel into the facility. And we got to set expectations. We got to say, this is almost a step down unit. Our goal is to get you home. So yes, I can keep you in the hospital for 3 weeks and then send you home, but no one does that.
Yeah.
So you were in the hospital for 2 days. You come here. Let's finish your antibiotics. Let's get therapy going. I need you to start getting up, getting yourself to the bathroom. Our therapy team will clear you for that. Our goal is to get you home and independent or modified independent.
So good. Yeah. That's why we got you on the podcast, dude. That to hear that as an administrator or to hear it as a DON, that is like just music to your ears that you have a doctor who is helping you set expectations as soon as they arrive into the facility. Because as soon as you arrive into the facility, there are so many questions. There is there's so many, I guess, questions. There's concerns, there's worries, and to have someone like yourselves as a medical director inside the facility, setting expectations, helping you set expectations with the family members changes the entire game.
100%. We say it all the time. So we break RTAs, return to acute, as avoidable and unavoidable. The number one way to prevent avoidable RTAs is not medical. AI can tell you the right antibiotic to choose now.
Can you say that one more time again?
Yep. The number one way to prevent avoidable RTA, it's not medical, it's social. It's social. And we harp on this with all of our providers. Get in front of families, educate them.
Yep.
It's the worried daughter Friday night that is saying, mom's coughing, no one's doing anything, 911. That's an RTA. But if we educate and we say, hey, we have telemed capabilities. Yes, she's coughing. Let me go through her weights. Let me go through her medical illness. Here's our treatment plan, what we're doing. When you educate them and they understand that we are treating them, they're in the right level of care, you've now prevented that readmission. And that patient is better served. They're on their way going home. We don't want to backtrack.
Yeah.
How does that actually play out in real time? Because I'm assuming that's like 10:30 at night on Friday. Or like, what does that actually look like for the nursing team and the administrator, who gets in touch with you all or through telemed?
Yeah.
To kind of like, are you talking to the family? Are you talking like...
Yeah, it's kind of whatever is necessary for the benefit of the patient.
Sure.
So in our practice, we do a lot of kind of pilot programs that we throw out there. So right now, the way that we handle call is you get the physician or APP that is staffing that facility.
Yeah.
So they know the patients, they know the families, all of that.
Which is important.
Which is very important.
If you don't have that, then you don't have just a baseline for that patient. And I found that as an administrator, if I was calling a doctor that was on call that had no clue who this patient was, it was very difficult for my nurse to accurately display or convey what was going on with that patient, and the doctor would soon be like, nah, send them out.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
That's huge.
Well, in the same regard, again, full disclosure, we are doing 2 kind of pilot programs. So we have 2 nocturnist APPs. All they do is post-acute care. One of the things that we found is our providers, we want them to be well-rested, show up with a great attitude, be willing to take on the weight of our patients, family members, all of that. Can't do that if you're getting called all night.
Right.
So we have 2 full-time APPs right now that do week on, week off. They cover, sniff call for us. And then we're actually piloting with a third-party company a telemed option as well. We're not sure which way we're going to go kind of long-term, but that's why we're doing these pilots.
Why are you doing pilots?
We want to be innovative. We want to find a way to make our practitioners' lives better and improve our model of care. And I think, a lot of people just get in there, they get comfortable. I'm seeing patients, I'm going home. Seeing patients, going home. You had talked about blood transfusions. That's, Vellum healthcare. So we now use them in a number of our facilities. If we can up the game constantly, why wouldn't we?
Sure.
And the patients are changing, at every level. So we do skilled nursing. That's kind of historically been our wheelhouse. But we also do long-term care. We do assisted living, memory care, independent living. And at every level, the acuity is just going up and up. Just in the 15 years or so we've been doing this, we get an awful lot of patients that 10 years ago would have gone to a long-term acute care hospital. And they roll in, most of them come, Friday night. About half our admissions come on Fridays.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. And so that transition in is tough. That's within, 48, 72 hours of admission is usually when all the bad stuff happens. So, most of our RTA happens in that window. And that's just, the fact is it's a very anxiety provoking experience for patients and families. I want to be careful how I say this because I think that the nurses in these skilled nursing facilities and assisted living, I think that's the hardest job in nursing. Really, they are, most of them are incredibly compassionate and smart people. A lot of them are doing this in a second language, which is even more impressive. But, these patients, 12 hours earlier, it was, 4 of them for an RN. With an on-site doctor, and then 12 hours later, it's 15 to 20 per LVN, no on-site physician. So they roll in, and often they're it's hard. Hospitalists and hospitals are under pressure to get people out sooner, so people are staying. Their stays in the hospital are not as long, and so they come to us a little sicker than they used to, and so. Yeah, if you're not Johnny on the spot when they get there and they have concerns, they just hit the easy button, which is going back to the hospital, and that's a huge problem. Yeah.
You know, you guys, as busy practicing physicians, I imagine you haven't had the time yet. The last week, the 2027 physician fee schedule came out, which is thousands of pages long. But, you know, my executive summary of that would be that it's heavily dependent now on outcome-based medicine.
Yeah.
And, you know, the payment model is shifting rapidly towards outcomes and accountable care. So what are you guys doing? Obviously, you talk about RTAs. Preventable RTAs is clearly something that we're now being paid for, or they're taking dollars away. What else are you seeing, and what are you guys doing in an innovative fashion to try to help the facilities and your practice, you know, maintain, you know, decent compensation and economics around the practice model when it's now about outcome-based medicine?
Yeah, we actually love that trend. We have never claimed to be smarter doctors than anybody else, but we harp on our employees, and we kind of put this out in the market that what we hope makes us different is we look at this as a hospitality business. Sure. I would argue that's true of all medicine, but senior care, it is the God's honest truth, and it's still surprising, you know, how many physicians and APPs really just kind of want to be a scientist. They just want to make the medical decisions. But the social part is really the modifiable. I mean, those are all, as Onk said, those are all the avoidable bad outcomes. You know, most of those are social, just people not getting the kind of attention and communication that they need. And so that has always been our model. We are also, you know, historically we have kind of harped on, you got it, you know, boots on the ground. There's no substitute for, you know, shaking someone's hand and reassuring them. And so we have always, our visit cadence, or at least our on-site cadence, has been a little higher. So we're really doubling down on that notion of this as a customer service business. And
can you speak tactically to what does that mean? I mean, what are you doing, or what are you having your APPs do?
so early contact with the families.
Okay.
The patients, you know, believe it or not, I mean, the patients we take care of, I mean, our average age is somewhere between 80 and 90. Most of them are, you know, pretty easygoing. You know, they don't panic. You know, they've had long, you know, interesting lives. They're not worried about a cough.
They give us war stories.
But the kids are, and so
That is not as bad as Normandy.
No, I think you're right. You talk about outcomes. So I have kind of two questions for the outcomes. But first and foremost, I think you're on the point where family members' expectations are the biggest challenge in skilled nursing facility. Would it be safe to say that you are helping skilled nursing facilities manage family expectations by education?
100%.
Yes.
Yeah. We have a lot of what we call Meridianisms, right? So one of them is, I think most practitioners that do post-acute, they kind of practice as though, you know, they're over here practicing, there's a fence, and then there's the whole facility staff. So what they do is they see the patient, they get a list of problems, they throw it over the fence, and they say, hey, I need you to deal with this.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So you give the DON a list of, hey, they don't like their food, their TV's broken, whatever. With our practitioners, we tell them, you're part of the team. You need to go tell, you know, the dietary folks, hey, they're not happy about this. All of that. We want to ingrain ourselves with the staff so that we're part of the team.
Game changer.
When we do that, I mean, number one, it tells the families we're part of the team instead of incriminating the facility. Like Grady said, I mean, a lot of these facilities are relatively understaffed, and the expectations are so high. So I think it's part of our job to say, no, again, this is not a hospital, but we can do a lot for you here.
Sure.
Do you ever run into, I'm a big fan of setting expectations, but then there's also a business side of this. There's like, can you set expectations so truthfully that they're like, I'm going to go to another facility because that doctor won't set expectations. I'll have a worse outcome, right? But I'm going to hear what I want to hear on day one. Like, can that happen?
I guess it could.
But it's not something that,
I mean, most of the time I feel like patients and families are just so receptive to a provider that's not just saying, you have pneumonia. I got you on antibiotics. I'll see you tomorrow.
Got it. Okay.
And instead it's, oh, there's a problem with your bed. Oh, let me help you out. How's therapy going?
Yeah.
Yeah. What can I talk to the head of therapy about?
So you're like earning the trust throughout the entire
100%.
conversation to where you can then set expectations as part of it.
100%. We're
got it.
kind
Makes
of shepherds in the senior care community.
Yeah.
And so for most of our patients, we even tell them, like, if they move to long-term care, they go on hospice, they're our patient till the end.
Yeah.
And skilled nursing's a little bit different. We want them to get home. We want them to reattach to their PCP. That's our job.
Yeah. Tell me about your experience. We talk about thrown over the fence, and you got the sniff and you guys, but what about the specialty care? In particular, I think about cardiac, pulmonology, and then you got kind of like the ortho, pain, podiatry side of it. How involved and integrated are those specialists into the nursing homes, and what is your relationship, and how does that play out?
Oh man, that's a great question. That could be an hour-long podcast on its own.
Yeah,
That's all right. We just talk about that.
Yeah, that is a good question. We've had lots of collaborations over the years with different specialists. In terms of kind of the internal medicine specialties, so cardiology, pulmonology, nephrology, a lot of the sort of core specialists that you need in the hospital. I mean, internists, especially internists who have practiced in a hospital setting, I mean, dealing with acute kidney injury and dealing with COPD exacerbations and, AFib and that sort of stuff, that's kind of our bread and butter. So, not to minimize, I love having specialty help on board, but, in this space, if you're not comfortable dealing with a lot of those things, you probably shouldn't be practicing.
You guys
there.
are unique, though. So I'm drawing this conclusion because you guys actually came from hospitalist care into this realm. And I think about how many nursing homes have an individual in there that never did see that kind of acute care, ICU.
Yeah.
You're comfortable
Well,
with it.
so what Grady said, though, the patients are changing. If you don't have that skill set, it's very difficult to be successful. So all of our providers have some background. You have to understand what goes on in an LTAC, hospital, clinic, home health, hospice to be a good sniffist.
Sure.
Because your patient is going one of those directions. And so you need to help guide them to say, hey, you don't need to go back to the hospital, but your wound's not getting better. Maybe we need to think about an LTAC. You have to know those different pathways.
There are some specialties like wound care that are just critical. I'm not a wound care doctor. You don't want me managing your wound. So there are some that are sort of uniquely well suited to this space. We've run into a lot of companies that sort of offer, 10 or 12 different specialty consults. But it's just hard. They have a hard time aggregating enough business for them to be on site.
Right.
It's one of the things that's tricky about what we do is trying to get people in the right place at the right time. And that's real easy if you have a building where they give you all the patients. You can be there every day, but that's rare. Most buildings, you're one of 3 or 4 providers, and it's just hard to be there every day, even though, you may only have 5 patients in a building, but odds are high one of them probably could use some advice almost every day. And so specialists, it's just magnified with them. They, in a building of 100 patients, there might only be 8 or 10 that truly need a cardiologist following them. And so that's what I've seen as kind of the barrier for them. Because if you have a cardiologist on board, for instance, and then somebody's, maybe developing CHF exacerbation, usually what happens is we end up managing that.
Yeah.
They came and did the consult, but we're there that day because we're there every other day or every day. And so it's tough. We love working with specialists, and I don't mean to make it sound like we don't welcome that help, but they have an even tougher logistical problem than we do.
And then you spoke a little bit more to the medical side of it, but when you think about more the musculoskeletal side, the orthos, podiatry, pain, do you see them regularly in your buildings?
I'd say pain management, yes, and PM&R, oftentimes we do. Ortho, no. But a lot of our patients, they come from the hospital, they've had surgeries, they've had procedures, they have to go back to see their specialist, and there's a set cadence. So we help coordinate, like with all of our facilities, we tell them, don't schedule any appointments until we see them. We're seeing them normally within 24 hours plus or minus. I go through that laundry list of follow-ups from the hospital, and I can say, yes, they need to go back. They had a hip replacement. Go see the orthopod. But then they come with 9 other follow-ups with routine cardiology, neurology, whatever it is. We tell them that can wait till they're done with their skilled stay. Let's focus on rehab.
Got it.
So
what a great just asset I feel like you all can give to the facilities just by giving expectations, but just also having a full, well-rounded just knowledge of kind of like the transition and the journey that the patient needs to go on. I think that, to me, if I'm an administrator or a DON listening, I'm like, that's like again, I'll say it again, music to my ears. It sounds really good. It feels really good. Setting expectations, managing expectations, but having someone on board with you to do that, that same thing. I don't want to go on a rabbit trail here, but I got to ask these 2 questions, outcome-based specific questions. You said earlier, and I know from experience, that most nursing home residents enter on a Friday. If hospitals are so worried about readmissions, why can we not change that to a Tuesday or a Wednesday and have more admissions on that day? Because honestly, truthfully, we see so many residents admitting on Friday at 5 or 6 o'clock. And guess what? That's when most of the nursing staff is see you later, off for the weekend, but that's the most crucial time. Yeah. And if you don't have good staff at that time and you have unrealistic expectations that are not managed on a Friday, guess what happens on Saturday? Guess what happens on Sunday? Mom is doing fine, but daughter and son are not doing fine. And guess what happens? Right. RTAs happen. So it's my idea is like, why can we not change it? If hospitals get dinged too for readmissions, why can we not collaboratively join together and say, you know what, our discharges are going to be all on Tuesday and Wednesday, and that's going to be the heaviest day, because that coincides with the best staffing for my skilled nursing facilities.
I mean, I'm happy to give an answer. I can't talk about hospital economics.
Okay.
But I would say that their priorities are probably what's happening in-house. Okay. Is priority 1. What's out of house is priority 2, because what you mentioned is now there are readmission penalties and whatnot. The game is changing with post-acute care. And this is what we love, is that hospital systems, payers, ACOs are now realizing we are losing money in this black box that is post-acute. And so what's happening is they're all building kind of preferred list of facilities. Well, that only goes so far. But when you have a preferred provider group that's kind of navigating the system, that's when you can really recap on your financial losses. But I think their number 1 priority is managing their own house. And so because of that, most of the discharges happen Friday, Saturday. But we had to do what we can in our house. So one of the things we started is we now have a weekend rounder program. So again, if RTAs are happening Thursday to Sunday, okay. Well, we just said one of the best ways to prevent RTAs is just getting in front of families and talking to them. Yeah. So now we staff our high volume buildings with providers that go out on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. And they're going out there to meet the new families to say, hey, I'm here. Your weekday team will be here. Let's go through your meds. Let's make sure you understand what life's going to be like here. But I think from a hospital standpoint, they have to be vested in what goes on beyond their walls. What's great in DFW is there's a wave coming. All the hospital systems now are talking to us saying, wait a minute, your guys' RTA rate is half the national average. You guys are helping, in-network utilization of home health, hospice, all these things. Can you help care for our patients? That's what we want.
Mm-hmm. Super solid.
One of the things I think you mentioned, Dr. Grady, was 3 or 4 doctors to a building. Like, just if you could wave your magic wand for the benefit of the patient. Obviously, the economics change if you have more in one building. But does that give you the ability, and would you say, like, we should change that? Like, having 3 patients in a building to me doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense from an internist standpoint. Yeah. And I'm sure there's some reasons you could tell me why that's that way. But, like, if you could wave your wand to change it for the benefit of the patient and probably the economics of care, how would you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's... the reasons are pretty simple. I mean, facilities, they're businesses. They need census, and most of them still think the best way to generate that is to have, a doctor from this system and from this system and from this system.
Got it.
And I think there's still, sadly, probably a little bit of truth in that belief. When we started in this work 15 years ago, I would have told you there's no chance that will still be true 15 years from now. It is all going to be about quality, which is why we've done what we've done, which is just keep our head down and just try and have the best product, not worry about the politics of, wrangling, hospital referrals or dangling the promise of hospital referrals in order to get business. Those referrals don't belong to us, but that's what we compete with. Most of our, I shouldn't say most, but a number of our competitors are enterprising physicians who are in these facilities, not saying they don't provide good care, but they are firmly planted because the facility's belief is that they bring patients.
Makes sense.
And so, there's no question. I mean, we have some buildings that have kind of just said, nope, you're our guys. We don't need anyone else. We love what y'all do. And the care in those buildings is irrefutably better than the buildings
That's what I would think.
where we have, we're competing with 5 teams and, it might be, we might have 5 or 6 patients. So, it's, we're really, we're seeing, the acuity just keeps going up and up. We love this trend of, outcomes based, merit. And so we're
Quality wins, and if you're a quality provider, on top.
we've always felt like the market was going to make that come true. We just have always believed that you do a better job, things are generally going to work out, and that has largely explained our growth. But there's still, we've been in some buildings where the care has been incredible. We've been their go-to. The numbers have been phenomenal, and we've been supplanted by somebody who came in promising referrals. 99% of the time we end up going back in those buildings, but it's just, it's the business. There's just, sadly, there's a lot of, these facilities are under tremendous pressure to fill beds, and, they don't get to say no a lot. So that's, it's a tough business. I do not envy people trying to own and operate senior care facilities.
It's a tough business. So I believe, Dr. Punatar, you mentioned that you're half the national average for readmissions.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, before we go on with that, I'm curious about just what metrics and KPIs that you all track and how well that you communicate and share those back to the building so that they can understand that, not only do you know you're a quality provider, but how well is that shared and what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Data aggregation in our world is so difficult in post-acute. So we've added some resources to try to get adequate data so that we could go to the facilities and say, here's our RTA rate, here's where we're failing, where we need to put more resources, all of that. So it's very hard to know RTA rates because, number one, most hospitals, I believe, do a 30-day outlook. Well, average length of stay, if you're a commercial payer, is probably 12, 14 days. Your Medicare, it's 20 days. So now you got to follow the patient as they go home to see what the RTA rate is. Plus, in facilities like we mentioned, there's 3 different care teams. So maybe I can give you the data on our subset of patients, but you want to know as a facility. So that part's really hard. Now that we have some partnerships with different hospital systems, payers, all of that, they actually can pull our data from a TIN-based outlook. And so we sit in these meetings and we can go through our data. We can look at it per facility, all of that. But in-house, our own data is very difficult to put together. So we're trying different things to get that information, but it's very hard.
Yeah, and just to provide a little bit of maybe help for you all, we devoted about 3 years ago. Shout out to Alexander. We brought in a data scientist and built a data room and started to just it's a massive undertaking, big investment of time and energy and money. And we have people now that just put out data for us so that we can share that back with facilities. And we didn't see there was like anywhere in between. You can't really do it on the side. You can't get a little bit of data and make it happen. You have to just devote your life to it. And we found some really talented people that built programs and just scrub. And we have this large data mart that we're able to do that. It sounds like you're kind of on your way to.
We're working on it. The hard part is every facility has their own EHR,
say, you guys
multi-factor
are in
authentication. Yes, we're in their house, right?
They're in their EHR. So
Yeah.
every building you're going into their own.
Yep.
That
And they
so
don't want to
get
give
that data.
EHR access to a data analyst. They give
Right.
it to the providers.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's been so many hurdles, and we found ways to get around them. But, you know, when you're in so many facilities, we want the data for every facility, for every patient, and we're
You
not
get
there.
that through the PCC. There's the PCC Open Network.
There's a lot of API calls and stuff like that are available, but that's interesting. It's almost like a business in and of itself is a rounding provider-based EHR that syncs with nursing homes so that you can actually have your own data.
Yeah. Well, and we do use an EHR that syncs with facilities.
Okay.
But again, if you're in 90 facilities, I think we have 60 that are synced. We have a couple that are on older versions of Matrix that
Yep.
don't sync.
Yep.
You got to sync to, we're synced with Matrix and PCC. We're not synced with MyUnity, which some facilities use.
Yeah.
So again, there's, you know, if I get 60% of my data, is that enough?
Yeah, it's challenging.
Yeah.
Skewed.
It's definitely its own business that we've had
Yeah.
a number of calls with groups that are trying to develop a platform for this, and
Yeah.
it's you know, a combination of trying to pull out whatever you can from claims data, pull out whatever you can from these EHRs. I'm not smart enough to figure out how all that can possibly work, but yeah, I mean, I would have never guessed it would be so hard for me to just say, I want to know in every building for each provider that's in my practice what their RTA is.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
that's, you know, we're lucky now because we have some relationships with health systems and ACOs that routinely monitor that data, and so that's actually been kind of cool because we have literally for the last 15 years we've been kind of in the back of our head feeling like our numbers were better, but not really having any empiric evidence, and so now we see it and we're like, okay, yeah, it works. Like just do a better job. That the numbers work if you do that.
You talk about numbers, you talk about RTAs. How can a facility truly reduce their RTA percentage back to the hospital?
I'd say there's kind of, to me, there's kind of two main things. One is you got to know your limits. I mean, you got to be honest with yourself about what you can handle and what you can't handle. And again, that's a hard business proposition because when you're trying to fill beds,
So there's a fine line
You don't
between
say no.
RTA
Yeah,
percentage
yeah,
and
yeah.
census.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
is there a correlation
Yeah.
between it? Does my census go up and my RTA percentage
Yeah.
goes up? Or you know,
Right,
how,
yeah.
how do I balance that?
Yeah.
That's a difficult challenge.
yeah, I mean, our buildings that have been good year after year and are full year after year, you know, they have a little easier time saying no because they know patients want to come there.
You're saying say no on the front end, basically. We're
To
not
the-
hiring
to the-
facilities.
yeah,
to the
Be more
admission.
They
selective.
get clinicals from the
higher acuity
hospital,
patients.
and you know, usually it's the nursing director that goes through the clinicals and decides whether or not that's a patient they can handle.
Okay.
And so I think that's a huge part of it. So knowing your limits, and then just jumping on the families mainly when they first get there.
Yep.
And that's what we try to help with. We're really trying to up our game on that transition in terms of the communication. Even just if families know that they can reach you, they just want to know that there is a physician who's aware of the patient, who has the patient's history, even if they haven't seen him yet. You know, if worse comes to worse, I can call the doctor if I'm not getting the right answer from the nurses. Again, the buildings that we see that are good year after year are usually the ones that have more skill in managing those conversations.
Sure.
You know, patients and families, they know when someone's not certain about something. And so if you have a really experienced nurse, you know, march in 20 minutes after you get there and introduce himself or herself and explain how this works and explain, you know, what they're going to do. And if you have any trouble, call me. Like, that's really confidence inspiring. And the buildings that don't have that, or don't have that at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, it's harder.
I found it interesting in some of the facilities that I ran. I felt like there was a correlation between acuity and expectations. The higher the acuity, the higher the expectations. And it may be unrealistic expectations. And I talk about it a couple times in the earlier podcast of managing expectations and truly managing unrealistic expectations. How do you manage unrealistic expectations in the nursing home world?
I think you just educate. I mean, you repeatedly have to educate them to let them know. But if you put it in a positive light, I think they're more accepting. So again, I don't say, hey, this isn't the hospital. The food's going to be worse. The therapy's worse. The level of nursing is worse. What I'm saying is this is a stepping stone to get you home. How often is your doctor seeing you at home? Is he coming there every day? No. Is he coming there once a week? No. You're going to him every 3 months, 6 months, once a year. I'm going to see you every other day. Again, this is a stepping stone. When you're in the hospital, it's 4-to-1 RN. When you're in a skilled nursing facility, maybe it's 12 or 14-to-1 an LVN. And I tell them, again, this is a stepping stone. Don't you want to go home? We need you to start picking up. We need you to do more. But you're going to do it under a watchful eye, and I'm going to help guide that. That's how we phrase it.
Yeah, and I don't think the family has any idea until you say that.
100%.
Like, that is so
100%.
important.
I mean, we've gone as far as in our hospital meetings to say, hey, can we actually educate the patients and families before they come to the facility?
Help us.
Yeah.
I mean, the first 4 hours, if you don't build trust in a SNF, they're calling 911. What if in the hospital we could educate families to say, here's what you need to expect when you hit the door there?
There was one thing that I did in my last facility, and I won't shout her name out because she'll be listening to this. But I felt like she did a very good job. She was my marketing director, and I believe she directly impacted RTAs because she developed a relationship and rapport with the family members when they were in the hospital. So she would come in there, hi, my name's Lacey Gray, and she would give them her business card. She's gonna love that, by the way. She's going to kill me. But anyway, she would give them the business card, and before they discharged, she toured them in the facility. She told them about expectations. She gave them expectations and gave them basically a whole framework of this is what to expect when you get to our facility. I mean, I feel like that played a crucial role. And not many people realize and understand that marketing can also have a direct impact on RTAs. Having that expectation, that conversation up front, an honest conversation, like, hey, this is a stepping stone. And then you have your medical directors coming in after that. Dude, boom, perfect world.
Yeah, and reaching out to them proactively is huge. I mean, you know, people have high expectations sometimes, but I think most people generally, they hear nursing facility and they're anticipating the care to not be very good. And so, you know, we tell our providers, I mean, there's nothing worse than calling a family for the first time when something's going wrong. You don't want to do that. So if you know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've called and just, you know, they answer the phone. I'm like, hey, this is Grady Goodwin. I'm one of the doctors at this facility. And they're like, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, no. I'm just calling to say everything's fine. I'm just calling to introduce myself and get your take on how things are going. And usually the reaction is, what?
You sure nothing's wrong?
You're calling, you're a doctor? You're calling just to say hi and introduce yourself like that? Yeah, I mean, and that goes so far, and it doesn't take a lot of time.
Well, to your point, Kip, I mean, you were asking the number one way you cut down RTA rates. It's customer service,
100%.
But it's facility and it's provider team. And I think that's the difference maker is when the provider team matches the level of the facility, the responsiveness, accessibility. I mean, again, more often than not, people are like, wait, you're a doctor? And of course, you know, most of the time I'm like, no, I'm not. Talk to my nurse practitioner. Right? But I love that because they're like, wow, you're human. Like I can talk to you. And so instead of calling 911, it's, hey, doc, can I talk to you? And it's, let's talk. What's going on?
I assume you have great relationships with your facilities, with your director of nurses, with your administrators. What's some sort of guidance or encouragement that you can give the facility administrators or the DONs that are listening and that are they're struggling and it's hard to meet expectations, their RTAs are high and they've just hit a wall? What sort of encouragement and guidance and direction can you give them from your expertise and your experience?
I mean, this is skilled nursing. So every building that's 5-star was probably 1-star at one point and vice versa. So everyone is doing the best they can. I mean, we're in the trenches with these DONs, these administrators. There's quotas on census. There's all these things you got to look at. Quality of care. Health systems are calling them saying, hey, you have an RTA here. What happened? And it is a constantly frustrating business. But again, you got to focus on the positives. I mean, a lot of these patients, when you're talking long-term care nursing, Medicaid, I mean, these patients might be on the street. They might be homeless. Yeah. We're providing them with quality of life, with different healthcare benefits. On skilled nursing, again, these are patients that probably would go home and end up back in the hospital in a week. Yeah. So it's a team game, and that's how we practice too. We have a lot of non-providers at Meridian, and they're helping us every day. Yeah. It's the same thing in the facility. So everyone's kind of got the same goal, the same focus. Just got to have your head up and kind of enjoy the wins, is what I would say.
Yeah, I think, in our buildings, we want them to know that we really view them as partners. Yeah. I mean, in our business, when we talk about customers, of course, there's the patient, but there's also the facilities, there's the health systems and the payers. I mean, we have a lot of people that we want to make happy. Yeah. And I think for our facility partners, I mean, we're in the weeds with them, and we want them to know that, we're there as much as just kind of advisors as anything. We're not just there to drop in and pick out the antibiotic. We're there to help them figure out, okay, is this something that needs to go to the hospital, or is this something that, we can just call and get them in to see their orthopedist, or, this discharge is, this discharge plan is not likely going to turn out well. Like, what are the options? And, we hire a lot of people that come from the hospital background. They don't, always necessarily start with a ton of post-acute experience. Sure. We think that's the right sort of background, certainly for skilled nursing. And so we train them up, and, with time, I mean, collectively we have a lot of experience in trying to figure out how to just manage people. I mean, I think, when I look at this business, it really is, it's just managing people. The medical part of it is not hard. Right. Once you've done this for 20 minutes, like the medical part is pretty easy. It's managing people that's hard. And the buildings, where it's the most fun and where the outcomes are the best are the buildings that recognize that, and they spend as much time worrying about, okay, have we called the daughter about this, as they do, have you documented that you did a skin check an hour ago? Like, I mean, the regulations are just, I mean, they're ridiculous. Like, it is just a setup for failure. And, we have lots of buildings that are wonderful, well run, patients are happy, the numbers are great, and something ridiculous happens, and they get an IJ, and they go from a 4 or 5 star to a 1 star for a long time. Sure. And it's just, it breaks my heart. I mean, it's like write your congressman kind of frustration, and it's just it's not a great system for these buildings, but I just think that, the job is hard, it's stressful, the turnover on the building side is crazy. Yeah. It's a little bit of a problem, for providers, but nothing like the facilities. I mean, I honestly don't know how they do it, but I think, really prioritizing hey, it's all going to be okay. If the family's happy, that is huge. And if they're not, it doesn't matter how good your care is. Family's not happy, or you're not, they don't feel like you're communicating with them. Yeah. Both for the facilities and for us, nothing good's going to happen.
So I think there's this natural progression. You talk about just how challenging it is. It's managing people. You have to really invest back into resources and teams, to build a solid asset. You guys are a fairly large group. We would consider you a large group. I think it's natural at this point. I think, United Health Group Optum is the largest employer of physicians in the United States today. I believe that's still the case. It was a year ago. We see insurance companies abroad, health plans buying practices. We see private equity having entered the space. What is your feelings and thoughts on just the corporate ownership of medicine? And then also, has it affected care? What do you see out there? And I'd love to just get your broad opinion on how, the insurers are the employers of the physicians moving forward. And I believe Humana made a big push for this a few years ago in Texas specifically. Just what do you think about this topic?
We're getting political.
Yeah. I mean, and we don't have to go there.
No. I mean, it's a topic we all have to address, because you're absolutely right. I mean, Congress is even changing laws about skilled nursing ownership because of private equity, their investment, all of that. I think there's pros and cons on both sides. Right. So when you're talking payers, insurance companies, all of that, my hope is they're better aligned with outcomes. That's my hope. When you tie money to outcomes, everyone's kind of pulling the same direction.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
And I think in some regard, it can be a necessary evil because there are some negatives that come with that as well. I think having physicians in terms of ownership and direction of a medical provider group is really important. Because I hate to say it, but I mean, all we care about is our patients being happy and families not berating me and just saying, you know what, my mom got what she needed today. Like that's what drives us. So I think it's achievable no matter who is in the ownership seat or the financial backing seat. But I think you all have to come together, and it does have to be provider centric to say, here's our goal. And it'll be, financially rewarding, but it'll also drive outcomes and quality. So I think there's pros and cons both ways.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually kind of optimistic about it. We've had some experience with that, and I can tell you it has not diminished the quality of the care. And every group that we've talked to, payers, health systems that are really trying to dig in this space. Of course, it's all about cost of care at the end of the day. But I've never heard any of them say or even infer that they wanted to reduce costs by reducing the quality of care. I think everyone realizes the only way to really reduce cost is to improve the quality.
Sure.
The frustration for us is that quality is kind of hard to measure. And so, our current quality metrics are diabetes screening, depression screening, colon cancer,
breast cancer screening, 90-year-olds.
Yes.
I mean, I love that one.
Those are, not to diminish those, but those are a lot more important in 40 and 50-year-olds than they are in 90-year-old nursing home and assisted living residents. And so there's no great, for what we do, there's no great barometer of quality.
Yeah.
But I do think that the trend is going in the direction that we had hoped it would when we started this, which is, listen, if I don't have the best product, I don't expect to get the business, and so we spend the majority of our time trying to figure out how to just have the best product, just do the best job, and that invariably kind of comes back to the social part of it. We're trying to, we still live in a fee-for-service world, so our providers get paid for seeing patients. The practice gets reimbursed for seeing patients. I would love to think that 5 years from now it would all be value-based, because that's just more fun. It's no fun. No doctor likes having to see 4 people an hour to make a living. I think every physician I've ever met would agree that 10 to 15 minutes per encounter is
not cutting it.
It's not good.
Absolutely.
We have the luxury of a really flexible schedule, so it's not sort of an appointment-based thing. So, I can, if a patient only needs 10 minutes, great. I have more time for the next one who might need an hour. But the day is coming where, if I could snap my fingers and just go 100% value-based, outcomes-based compensation for our practice, I would do it. But individuals can't do that. Hawk and I don't have the wallet to do that.
I would imagine you're starting to have those conversations with the individual health plans, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. How are those going?
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah.
They're good. I feel, again, they are aligned with where we want to go.
Okay.
Good.
So, and again, they have data. We have a hard time collecting data. So,
Yeah.
Have you guys thought about, like, from an ACO standpoint or in the insurance, like an ACO standpoint or just getting into the insurance game? We've seen that in other groups, like from a nationwide standpoint of wanting to get more involved. And what I've heard, and I think you guys, you're kind of saying the same thing, is like the key to value-based medicine is like old school medicine.
Yeah.
Just like have a relationship with your patient,
100%.
spend more time with them. And so have you guys
Socialize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You're right. It is. It's a slightly different practice style than you typically see in the hospital or post-acute space. And just having an alignment. We started, a couple of years ago, started looking at this from sort of a different slant and thinking, okay, how, we can keep just going facility by facility, just, trying to get patients by doing a better job. And we've done that. But it's really fun talking to health systems and saying, okay, you've got lives in this space, or ACOs, you've got lives in this space, and you don't really have a lever to pull when it comes to the physician services. Like, you can decide which facilities you want them to go to, if at all. You can decide if they have to go home. Like, you can do all that, but physicians are not. I would probably admit that we're not the most important piece of that. But the stats on how much wasteful spending happens because of physician orders is it's pretty mind-blowing. I mean, and so that's, we're hoping, we've gotten some traction on that, and it's really just like, hey, you've got lives in this space. You have no idea who the physicians are taking care of them. If you would like some uniformity in what happens to your patients, or if you would just kind of like hospitals have hospitalists. It used to be community doctors would take ER call, and so a hospital, to wrangle their inpatient care, they'd have to deal with 30 or 40, internists and family practice docs who were taking ER call. And then at some point, someone said, "Hey, why don't we just have one group that we can go to and say we want this done every single time?"
It's continuity of care, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just standardization, and so that's kind of what we're excited about now is sort of, we finally got to a scale where we can say, hey, if there's things you want done on your patients, here's what we think makes for good care. If you have other kind of organizational priorities you want to implement, like we can help with that. And so that's kind of what we're spending a lot of time on now.
Well, I appreciate you both sitting down and chatting with us on Our Purpose podcast. I feel, the music to my ears, right? We talked about a little bit of music earlier. And so maybe that's the resounding, the message that I'm hearing is just the continuity of care, the attention to detail, the conversations that you have with the family members, the reduction in RTAs, and just the amazing things that you all are doing in our long-term care space and in our skilled nursing facilities. So from all the administrators and DONs, I say thank you. Thank you for the care and the love and the service that you give to them, and just being as one, right? And being cohesive with the facility and doing the best for the patients. And so we talked this entire podcast. We've mentioned your company name once, but I want to know who your facility. I know who it is, right? But tell the listeners who your facility name is, how they can find you. Kind of give me a little bit there, and then wrap it up on why you do what you do, like what your purpose is in this space, and how you impact the lives that you serve.
Yeah, so the group name is Meridian Health Partners. You can just Google it. We're passionate about this work. We see, obviously there's the demographic, the curve is coming, the wave, right? But this is just a great population. I kind of knew from early on I wanted to take care of old people, and this space is where all of the patients that have the highest need are ending up. Both nursing and assisted living. We didn't really talk about assisted living, but that is a behemoth. Those are all the people that have kind of declared that they need more help. And so, we really look at our work as I mentioned, as not just medical decision makers, but really kind of senior advisors, just helping families, facilities, patients sort of figure out, what are my options?
Sure.
I can't live at home anymore. Maybe I've been in the hospital a bunch. Here's my medical stuff. They just need somebody who kind of understands the broader landscape. The medical stuff, sort of colors that a little bit, but it's really, I think the need and hopefully the need that we'll be filling is just helping facilities, patients, families sort of navigate the last few years of life.
Good.
Yeah. For me, I entered this space because of the challenge. So 15 years ago, doing skilled nursing, holy crap. It was, there was a weights book at this end of the hallway.
Sure,
There's a sugars book here, and half the pages are ripped out, and you're trying to provide care in a, horribly controlled diabetic.
For sure.
So I entered it because of the challenge. I'm kind of a nerd. I like to build systems, processes, workflows, all of that. But I'll tell you, the most rewarding thing is not when you see 30 patients and you think you got a big paycheck. The most rewarding thing is when you spend an hour with the family and, you know, they didn't understand their 90-year-old mom who broke her hip, like what the mortality rate is and what
Sure.
the options are. When you can sit there and counsel them and give them the time to help them, and you just see kind of that resolve in them, you see the resolve in the patient, like that's why we do what we do.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. Goodwin. Thank you, Dr. Punatar, for changing lives, for impacting the patient care, and just making our facilities in Texas and North Texas greater because of Meridian Health Partners. So we thank you for sitting down and chatting with us today. That was fun. That went really, really fast.
Yeah.
I think the listeners are going to get some really good nuggets out of that. It was super educational. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for spending time with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
Enjoyed it. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Appreciate
Ladies
it.
and gentlemen, Our Purpose Podcast. Tune in. Dr. Goodwin, Dr. Punatar. That was a good episode. Until next time, peace.